you please state your name?
My name is Simon Ting.
And what is your age?
I'm 34 years of age.
And Mr. Ting, where do you currently live?
I currently live... Currently I work as a financial advisor with AMP in the city, and I live nearby in one of the new high-rises in the harbour.
Now, Mr. Ting, when did you first meet Mr. Jimmy Lee?
First met him at school. So I was born in Ashfield and I grew up there, and I went to Ashfield Boys High, and Jimmy Lee was there too.
And were you close to Mr. Lee?
He was a few years ahead of us, and I wasn't close, but he was known as the school bully, since he was bigger than most boys and a lot more violent.
Now, Mr. Ting, have you in your life ever taken illicit substances?
I don't have a drug problem, but I do use cocaine from time to time.
And could you please tell the court a little bit about this habit?
It helps me keep my edge. That's really the reason I use it. It's not like anything. It's not like I'm addicted to it. But for a few years, I have been buying it exclusively from the gym.
So you and Mr. Lee were in a business relationship of sorts, is that correct?
Not necessarily. As I said, I didn't use it. Like, I don't have a drug problem, so it was only from time to time. But yes, I would buy it from Jimmy, but recently his quality hasn't been up to scratch, or hasn't been as good recently, so I've been trying to find some other places to buy it.
So Mr. Ting, is it correct to say by May of 2018 that something had changed in this quasi-business relationship that you had with Mr. Lee?
Yeah, so he noticed that I was buying it like less frequently, and when I visited him to make a purchase, he actually hassled me about it, and I was quite honest with him. I said that I was getting a better deal from other sources in the city, and he was like furious. He took it as a personal affront. He accused me that I was being disloyal, and it was all or nothing, and I had to buy all my drugs from him. And he said, quite violent, like in a threatening manner, that I better not show my face in Ashfield.
And when you heard this, was this the first time that you had heard Mr. Lee use language of this sort?
To me, yes, but I've heard that he's used this kind of language with other people, and I've heard stories from one of my friends in high school, Eddie, that Jimmy could get extremely violent with people, and that he did quite often use this language.
Now, Mr. Ting, with these episodes that you've been told about, can you tell the court anything a little bit more about the nature of these events?
I've heard a couple of stories. For example, Sam Smith and Timmy Deppeler, they both had their legs broken by Nick and Finn, who are Jimmy's associates. And they were broken on Jimmy's orders, according to Ed.
Now, Mr. Ting, you decided to do something around the end of May, is that correct?
Yeah, so like for a small period of time after Jimmy threatened me, I was looking over my shoulder a lot. I wasn't comfortable. I was quite scared. So I thought living like this isn't the best thing to do. So I thought I would go and talk to Jimmy about it, like purely diplomatic purposes in mind. And I wanted to smooth things over for him. So I thought maybe we could have like an agreement where I'd buy a certain amount of drugs from him every month, like a subscription, if you will. And that's a few weeks later, that's what happened.
Okay. Now, Mr. Ting, can you please tell the court what happened on the 1st of June?
So on the 1st of June at about 2 p.m, I travelled to Ashfield and went to his office at Liverpool Road. I was quite nervous. Eddie was there, and I asked him where Jimmy was, and he said Jimmy was in his office with Nick and Finn, his associates. I was quite scared. And I was about to leave. I was about to turn and leave when Jimmy's office door opened, and he came out with Nick and Finn standing behind him. They were carrying cricket bats, and immediately I knew something was up.
Now, Mr. Ting, what happened after that?
Well, Jimmy had when they were carrying cricket bats, I was immediately threatened. So Jimmy had a ceremonial dagger on the stand on the sideboard. So I grabbed it for protection. And then Jimmy said, "Okay, let's do this," and they all advanced together. I held their knife out in front of me. Nick and Finn came around either side of Jimmy with their cricket bats, and I felt surrounded and threatened. And Jimmy seemed like the weakest link physically, so I tried to get away from Nick and Finn through him.
And did anything happen after that?
knowing that I'm not too sure how Jimmy got killed. I wasn't trying to hurt anyone. I was just trying to get away without my legs getting broken.
But Jimmy did die, did he not?
Yes, he did.
And you had absolutely no part in that. You were merely trying to get away. That concludes the defence's questions. So now I am counsel for the prosecution, and this begins the cross-examination, which there is a wider degree of questions that I can ask. As you probably noticed, the questions that I asked in examination in chief were quite broad. You can't lead, you can't use leading questions to try and make a witness say what you want them to say or to go down a certain path. But in cross-examination, you can say more or less anything that you want. There are a number of exceptions, and the SULS handbook has quite a good section on what you can and cannot say. So, and these are all complex rules of evidence. But even if you haven't done evidence, it's absolutely fine. These rules will get you through. So, I'll proceed with cross-examination. Now, Mr. Tim, how did you know Mr. Lee?
It started in high school.
And you stated in paragraph 2 of your witness statement that you got on with him okay, is that correct?
Yes.
And this was despite him having a bullying and overbearing demeanour.
Yes.
So you got on well with the bully.
Could say that.
And you describe Mr. Lee as quite large, is that also correct?
Yes.
And would you say he was above average build, he was above average height?
I'd say he was above average build.
Mm-hmm.
He was taller than me. So yes, I'd say he was above average height.
Okay. Now, Mr. Tim, you had a business relationship of sorts with Mr. Lee, did you? Of sorts. And you maintained this relationship for a number of years, is that correct?
Yes, for years.
And these transactions all occurred at Jimmy's office?
Yes, not necessarily.
But a vast majority of course. And you had maintained this relationship for a number of years. So why did you continue this relationship when the quality of the cocaine dropped, Mr. Tim?
Because of Jimmy's reputation.
Mm-hmm.
He was quite a bad reputation. I didn't want to poke the bear.
And you didn't poke the bear when you told Mr. Lee that you were buying from other people, did you?
When you confronted me about it, if I had lied, if he'd found out later, that would have been a lot worse than me telling him right then and there. So yes, I wasn't trying to poke the bear.
But you still told.
Of course.
And how did he react to that?
He reacted quite threatening.
And did you expect him to threaten you?
I didn't expect him to smile and let me walk away. But yes, I listened to it.
And did you have a friendship with Mr. Lee?
I wouldn't call it a friendship.
Then how, Mr. Tim, would Mr. Lee have known if you were buying from somebody else?
I'm not too sure.
So you don't know. Okay. So why did you not try and tell Mr. Lee that you were stopping taking drugs altogether? There were alternatives, were they not?
So I should have lied to him.
I'm saying, are there alternatives that you could have told him?
I could have, but they would all have been lies.
But you could have told him alternatives.
Yes, but they would have been
Okay.
lies.
Now, Mr. Tim, how did you know Mr. Wu?
We went to school together.
And would you say that you and Mr. Wu were friends?
Yes.
And you said that you had heard stories from Mr. Wu about Mr. Lee.
Yes.
And what was the specific content of these stories?
Stories of how Jimmy had gotten violent or had hurt people. Sam, Smith and Timmy Tiller, or two, who had their legs broken by Jimmy's associates.
And you had only heard these stories from Eddie, is that correct?
I'd heard whispers, yes, I'd heard these stories.
So you had only heard these stories from Eddie. And yet you had a number of friends in Ashfield, is that correct?
It's been a while since I've been, I used to visit, yes.
You have friends in Ashfield. And all of these friends would have known Mr. Lee. You went to the same school. And all of these friends, if they had have heard anything about Mr. Lee, would have told you, I would imagine, would they not?
Yes, but I heard most of these stories from him.
Well, Mr. Ting, you said just before that you heard all of these stories from Mr. Ting. Mr. Wu, are you lying to the court now? Now, I referred your statement at paragraph 5 when you stated the clear implication was that Jimmy had something similar planned for me. What did you mean by this?
Because Eddie had sent me a text reminding me what happened to Sam and Timmy, and the implication of that text was that Jimmy had something similar planned for me.
And did you believe that this was injury in a consistent way to the other injuries that had occurred?
Yes.
So did you think that he would do anything else to you?
I can't be sure. I just knew I was going to get hurt. Well, I thought I was going to get hurt. I don't know exactly how I was going to get hurt.
Now, Mr. Ting, on the 1st of June, you decided to visit Mr. Lee to smooth things over.
Yes.
And how did you intend to do this?
By talking to him and by reasoning.
And how long after your last conversation with Mr. Lee did you wait to approach him?
A few weeks.
A few weeks. And Mr. Lee had an office at his restaurant, is that correct?
He had an office on Liverpool Road. As far as I'm concerned, he wasn't a restaurant there.
Now, did Mr. Lee's office have a phone?
If it's an office, yes, I'm assuming so.
Have a phone. And did Mr. Lee have a mobile phone?
I'm assuming so.
Then, Mr. Ting, I put it to you that you had alternate means to contact Mr. Lee. Is that correct?
Yes.
So there were alternate ways that you could have contacted him.
Yes.
And yet you made the conscious decision to confront the person who had been terrifying you so much.
To diplomatically talk to this person who had harassed me for months.
And so it is correct to say that you chose not to use any other alternative.
I chose the alternative that would allow the two of us to be gentle.
Or wouldn't that be over the phone? You said he was a violent man.
He was a violent man.
And you feared he would be violent towards you.
Yes, but Eddie, who as I said, was my friend, was there too. So I went there in hope that things would be okay.
And you knew Eddie was there.
Yes, Eddie was there.
And how did you know Eddie would be there?
Because I actually asked Eddie where Jimmy was, and Eddie said he was in the office with my friend.
Mr. Ting, I refer to you prior to getting to the office. How did you know that Mr. Wu was going to be at the office at the time?
I had organised this meetup with Eddie.
Mr. Ting, that is not in your statement. Are you withholding information from the court?
No, I'm not.
So you state that you had organised a meeting. Is that true?
Yes.
Then why did you not tell the police about this organised meeting?
I don't think there was a need to police about it.
Now, how did you organise this meeting?
Now, this is what I said earlier. I said I organised this meeting with Eddie, so I didn't actually organise it with Jim.
I mean, how did you contact him?
How?
Not
How
who,
did I-
how?
How did I contact Eddie? I messaged him because he texted me. You know how he texted me earlier? So I messaged him.
3 weeks earlier.
I messaged the same number.
You messaged the same number replying to a message 3 weeks earlier. That seems very inconsistent if Mr. Wu was your friend. Does it not, Mr. Ting?
I don't remember saying that I didn't reply to that previous message.
So you replied to a different message?
No. So that same number that sent me that text was the same number that I contacted Eddie with.
Well, Mr. Ting, I don't believe that you sent any message to Mr. Wu. I think that you showed up directly at Mr. Lee's office.
Why couldn't I have done
can't have done both.
I showed up to Mr. Lee's office and I messaged Eddie.
Yeah, you showed up to Mr. Lee's office unannounced.
Yes.
Now, Mr. Ting, you allege that Mr. Lee threatened you, is that correct?
Yes.
And that you were continually checking your surroundings out of fear.
Yes.
And yet you decided to go to this man's surroundings, his office. Seems strange, doesn't it?
If you look at it in a certain way.
Yeah, but it is strange.
Not really.
So if you are fearful of the man and you confront him at his office, it doesn't seem strange to you.
Well, Eddie was there too. So I wasn't alone.
But you didn't know that he was going to be there.
Eddie was the one who told me that Jimmy was in his office with me in things, so I didn't.
You didn't know Eddie would be there prior to your arrival. It's okay, take your time.
What was the question?
You didn't know that Mr. Wu was going to be at the office prior to your arrival.
No, I did.
I shan't make a point, I shall move on. Now, Mr. Ting, would you say that you know Ashfield well?
Yes.
And you know that a majority of the suburbs, the buildings along, the road in Ashfield, they're quite small, aren't they?
Yes.
Was the room outside Mr. Lee's office small?
It was average.
And how would you define average?
Well, I work in the city and those offices are quite large. So comparatively this was quite
That's not a definition, Mr. Ting.
It was smaller than the office that I worked in.
And how big is the office that you work in?
Larger than average.
I would ask for dimensions, but I fear that I shall not get them. Now, offices are generally cramped areas, are they not? There's a number of desks. They're quite messy. This was a smallish office. Was this office messy?
It wasn't clean.
Okay. Would you say it was messy? Probably from the office being too big.
It was not too messy.
Now, Mr. Ting, the dagger that you allegedly used to kill Mr. Lee, you said it was ceremonial. Is that correct?
Yes.
And by ceremonial, did you mean decorative?
Yes.
Okay. Now, if it was ceremonial, it would have been expensive, would it not?
I don't know.
Did you think that it was an expensive ceremonial dagger that you picked up?
Yes.
And it is unlikely, it is, likewise quite unlikely that this dagger would have been sharp if it's ceremonial. Okay. Now, how was the dagger stored, Mr. Ting?
On a stand, on a sideboard.
Was it in a box?
It was on a stand.
Was it surrounded by glass?
It was on the sideboard.
So you're saying that a decorative, expensive dagger was left on a sideboard of a slightly messy office?
Yes.
Strange. Now, Mr. Lee, if you feared for your life, did you arm yourself before confronting Mr. Lee?
Not before, but when he was standing with his associates, that's at that point,
Mm-hmm.
I would call that the confrontation. So I'm during the confrontation.
So, did you go to see Mr. Lee with the intention of harming him?
No.
Now, Mr. Ting, you described Mr. Lee in paragraph 8 as the weakest of the three men. What did you mean by that?
The other two would be.
Mm-hmm.
He was less big.
Would you say that he was vulnerable as a result?
Compared to the other two holding cricket bats, I'd say so.
So he was vulnerable.
Compared the other two, I'd say so.
But he was. Did you attack Mr. Lee because you saw him as a threat?
I did not attack. I tried to get away.
And did you attack Mr. Lee because you thought it could end your dispute?
I tried to get away because I felt threatened.
Now, Mr. Ting, I'm going to run you through the events of the 1st of June, as you described them in your statement. Now, having arrived at Mr. Lee's office, you saw Mr. Wu first, is that correct?
Yes.
And this was outside of the office that Mr. Lee was in a meeting.
Yes.
So, it is correct to say that at this stage you had your back to the door that you had just entered from,
Yes.
and that you were facing the office where Mr. Lee and his associates were.
Yes.
Now, could you hear the conversation from inside Mr. Lee's office?
Oh, but I did hear him say okay students, but that was after I got in. So no, yes, no, you're right.
Now, did Mr. Wu inform Mr. Lee that you had arrived? No, so Mr. Lee didn't know you were there.
He might have seen me coming in through windows, but no, not to the best of my knowledge.
So he didn't know you were there.
To the best of my knowledge, I don't think he knew.
Okay. Now, Mr. Ting, you decided to leave quite quickly after that, did you not?
Yes.
And what made you change your mind?
Jimmy, a well-known bully, was in a room with a pair of bigger bullies, and those big bullies had broken two people's legs. So understandably, I was quite scared.
And these were the men that you had gone to see to have a friendly chit chat, I believe you said.
A diplomatic conversation.
Much of a muchness, Mr. Ting. Now, I thought you were adamant that you were going to sort things out, to smooth things over with this bully.
Yes.
And you decided that that wasn't a good idea.
That was, in the moment, I was quite scared. And standing there, I thought, maybe not. So that's why I did.
Now, as you decided to leave, you turned your back to the office that Mr. Lee was in, and you were facing the door that you had just come from.
Yes.
Still open door. That is correct.
The door was
The still open door that you were walking in.
so no, so I walked in,
Mhm.
and then Jimmy's office was around here, and so when I saw the closed door, I was going to walk back along the corridor that I just come from.
Okay, so but you were facing towards the door that you had entered from originally.
Yes, I was about to turn to face the door.
Okay. Now, as you turned around, you heard the door open. You turned back around to face the office, and you saw Jimmy, Mick, and Finn. And your back was again, your back was facing away from the door that you had walked in from.
Yes.
Okay. Now, Mick and Finn were carrying cricket bats, were they not? Was Jimmy carrying a cricket bat?
No, he was not.
Okay. And Jimmy didn't know you were going to see him that day, did he?
No, he did not.
So, to be clear, you are stating that the men who walked out happened to be holding cricket bats at the exact moment that you happened to be standing in Mr. Lee's office when he had absolutely no knowledge that you would be there.
To the best of my knowledge, he hadn't seen me coming. But from the way they were standing in a threatening manner, it's obvious that they had seen me coming somehow. I'm not too sure how.
Did Mick and Finn carry around cricket bats as a recreational purpose?
I'm not too sure.
So why would they come out of a door for no reason holding cricket bats?
Considering it's June, it's the winter, cricket season's over. I'd say that they'd only come out carrying cricket bats with the intention of harming.
Who?
Harming me.
They didn't know you were there.
As I said, I didn't know that they knew that I was there. To the best of my knowledge, they didn't know that I was there.
It's the thing, they did not know you were there. You had made no indication to any of these men that you would be there. So you were saying that they came out with the knowledge that you were there. Can they read
the
minds?
postman doesn't tell the housekeeper when the post is coming, but the housekeeper can see the postman coming.
I thought Mr. Lee was a drug dealer, not a postman.
It's an analogy and grew upon.
Interesting. Now I put it to you, Mr. Ting, that these men could not have known that you're in this office at this time because you had made no indication that you were going to be at this office, and no one had said anything about you being at this office.
To the best of my knowledge, that was the situation I thought I was walking myself into.
Yeah. So, Mr. Ting, are you lying about the men holding cricket bats?
No.
They were holding cricket bats.
Yes.
Just for fun.
As I said, the way they were holding the cricket bats, the way they were standing, I don't think it was for fun. I think it was to cause grievous bodily harm.
To a person they didn't know was there, absolutely. That's understandable. Now, you stated that you felt surrounded by the three men, is that correct?
Yes.
And I assume as you were facing them, Jimmy was in the middle and Nick and Finn were to either side. Yeah, okay. Now, Mr. Ting, you stated in paragraph 8 that in an attempt to escape, you ran straight towards Mr. Lee, is that correct?
Yes.
And you had been in this office before, is that correct?
No.
You had never been in this office,
No.
even though this was the office that you stated before the drug transactions had occurred.
I said that most of them
Had occurred at Jimmy's office. This is Jimmy's office. I'm using your words, not mine, Mr. Ting.
Actually, if I recall correctly, you were going to put those words into my mouth, so technically they're yours. But to the best of my knowledge, Jimmy actually had multiple offices.
Multiple offices. And why did you not go to any of his other offices? How did you know that he would be at this specific office on this specific day without any indication that he would be there?
Because of Eddie.
But you didn't talk to Eddie, Mr. Ting. Eddie did not inform you that, oh, Mr. Lee is currently here, don't come, did he? Mr. Ting, you are trying to state that if a man has multiple offices,
Yes.
that you happen to go to the single office that he was in that day.
Earlier you had asked that where had I gotten these drugs, like where had I met up with Jimmy to get these drugs? And those were at Jimmy's multiple offices.
And why did you not state
And
them?
then since the time when I stopped taking drugs from him, I believe he has relocated. He has moved his offices to this place.
Mr. Ting, that is entirely a fabrication. I do not accept that whatsoever. For the purpose, we shall agree to disagree that you had been to that office before for drug transactions. Now, you had been to this office a number of times. You had entered into this office just prior to the events that occurred, is that correct?
Yes.
So you knew how to get to this office.
They recently renovated.
And because you knew how to get into this office, I imagine you knew how to get out of this office.
I would go out the way I came in.
Then why, Mr. Ting, did you not do that?
Because I felt surrounded.
You felt surrounded?
And like a deer in headlights, I was frozen.
And yet you ran forward when there was an open door right behind you that you had walked in moments previous.
I'm not right behind, it was a fair way away.
How long?
It was a long corridor.
Long corridor. So you now remember the dimensions of the office. So you had been to this office before.
Corridor. Corridor is house.
But there was a door from the office leading to the corridor.
Yes, there was a long corridor leading to the office.
And there was a door that you would enter into, and then his office was straight in.
Yes.
So your back was to the door that led to the corridor.
Yes.
And yet you ran straight ahead.
Yes.
So you are trying to tell the court, Mr. Ting, that having walked into a room, you in 30 seconds had forgotten how to leave that room, and as a deer in headlight had run towards the most vulnerable man you could see.
The deer in headlights was before the flight or fight.
But you did run towards Mr. Lee,
Yes.
and that was in an attempt to escape,
Yes.
in a direction you knew you couldn't escape from. I think that concludes the questions.